Hello, everyone. This is ALBERTA, the BitcoinMeister, the DisruptMeister. Welcome to This Week in Bitcoin. Today is June the 22nd, 2018. Strong hand, long-term thinking. This is my fourth show in 24 hours. All right, so we've got four guests today. Oh, I rounded up the best and the brightest here. We've got Josh. He's been on the show before. We got a newcomer, Anthony. He hasn't been on the show before, but he's coming from Canada, and he's making this thing international, baby. Corey, you know him, or maybe you don't know him. He's been on the show before, but he's a behind-the-scenes guy at World Crypto Network. He's the guy behind the Bitcoin podcast tweets. He's putting all these shows in the podcast form. He's doing a mitzvah. And well, it's for profit though, of course, but it's a good thing that we're beyond YouTube because of Corey. And then of course we've got Tim coming in from Pittsburgh. He is on the You, Me, and BTC show that I was just on Thursday night. And of course I was just on the Bitcoin group on the World Crypto Network a few hours ago. So let us start out this thing with the Honorable Josh, because he is a dude. He's got money charts. He keeps track of the price, and all you guys out there, you care about the price and all that stuff. But I've got a Mt. Gox question for him. For today, the news came out that Mt. Gox to end bankruptcy proceedings and start civil rehabilitation, i.e. distribution of remaining Bitcoin to creditors. All right, so I linked to that below. Check out the links below because all these guys are linked to below. If you want to learn about the Bitcoin podcast, if you want to learn about Anthony's business, anything, it's all below. Get your Trezor t-shirts and all this stuff. So Josh, what do you think about this, the Mt. Gox situation, that it's basically no one can FUD anymore that, hey, the Mt. Gox trustees are going to dump X amount more Bitcoin and the price is going to go down, even though one Bitcoin still equals one Bitcoin. Josh, what do you have to say?
So overall, I think it's good for the people who lost their money at Gox, obviously. I mean, that's a big win for them because there was a fear at one point in time that it was just going to go straight to Karpellis, the remaining funds. So I think it's good for Karpellis that he's doing that, or they're forcing him to do that. I don't really know how to read the legalese of all that, but in general, it's good for the holders or the users of the exchange. I don't think it's great for the market either way, because that's a supply shock. People are going to say they're either going to keep or sell or whatever, but all those coins come back into the market one way or the other. So who knows what they're going to do, but you got to assume some of them are going to sell, as would anybody. I mean, it's gone up 6x from the top, at least at Gox, assuming you bought at 1K and we're at 6K now. So at the very least, you're making money on that, So I don't know. I don't really know how to read that. Obviously, it's good news for people who lost money there. But I wouldn't get too excited that the creditor's not selling anymore, because so the supply is going to get released regardless,
The uncertainty about what's his next move going to be?
It's certainly better than the creditor just blanket selling everything at the worst times possible, like market, even though they claim it was OTC. So yeah, I don't know. I think it's probably the best option overall. It's still not super bullish, I don't think, but yeah, I mean it's good. It's good news.
Tim, how about you? What do you think? This Mt. Gox stuff is played out? Is it over with? Are you concerned?
Well, I'm not concerned because I didn't have anything. Mt. Gox was at least one of the, I got things out before I was too stupid with it there. So I'm not as concerned with it. Actually, one of the guys who used to do our podcast with us had he lost a little bit of money in it. So I guess he's getting that back. But again, it was nothing crazy. I just haven't, because I haven't really been involved with it, then that gives me the excuse to not pay attention to it, which I like doing with things. But I just agree that, it's good that people are getting the money back. It makes sense that people are just going to sell it. Now, not every single person is going to, and I guess that's a better option than, like you said, than just everybody just selling or it putting in just like one person just selling all of it. So it's good. I guess I like that people are getting their money back, but I think I even said this we were talking kind of on our show last night on my show, where I kind of do like when bad things not bad things, but like whenever you do have an issue, whenever you do have something kind of falls apart. And I guess this is kind of the best of both worlds where everybody thought they lost all the money, they had issues. Maybe some people did learn to keep their private keys and to not just have it sitting out with somebody else. And then they do get their money back. But if that's how it works, that's great. I hope people still learn the lesson. Don't just go, well, no, we'll be able to do this every single time it happens, and we'll never have any issues with Bitcoin banks. And yeah, definitely Bitcoin banks would be a great idea, and I'll just leave everything in there. So I hope we all still learn the lesson from it, but it's nice that we maybe don't have to pay at least the full cost for all this happening.
Well, I will say this: in a perfect world, people would learn a lesson from this, but no, they're not going to learn a lesson from all this. They are going to still keep it on exchanges, and we're going to get to that in a second because there's still exchange hacks, and people are still losing their cryptocurrency. Corey, do you have thoughts on Mt. Gox, and now that we don't have to worry about the trustee anymore, and people won't be creating FUD around the trustee anymore?
Well, I think if people are going to be recuperating money in fiat and not Bitcoin, they're kind of getting screwed first off. And also, this is crypto, and I've lost a chunk of money in all kinds of different ways. And so really, when you lose money, especially on an exchange going down, when you've been warned time and time again, I really don't have sympathy. That was kind of a while ago, so maybe there wasn't as much knowledge as to not keep Bitcoins on an exchange. But these days, really, I don't have sympathy when people lose money in crypto at all. To me, the idea of like crypto lawsuits is ridiculous. Yeah, I think the biggest issue is if they're not recuperating their money in Bitcoin, they're getting fiat representation of what they had in Bitcoin, then that's not good. That doesn't really help anybody. They just lost years of investment.
Yeah, indeed. And some people are just getting fiat from this. I don't know how many. I'm not clear on how many people are getting the Bitcoin back and how many people are getting the fiat back, or if they're going to redo that. Or, I'm glad I'm not involved with this thing at all. Again, learn your lesson, people, from this. Personal responsibility here. I agree with Corey. If you're still storing your Bitcoin at exchanges at this point, I don't feel bad. I mean, yeah, it's happened so many times. It's happened so many times that sometimes the media says Bitcoin was hacked. So I mean, all right, Anthony, you're the fourth dude on this. There's only so much that can be said. You have a take on Mt. Gox.
Well, I agree with the other guys. I don't think it's a bad thing that it's gone back to civil rehabilitation. And I do remember Mark Capellas, I think a couple of months ago, he had an AMA. I don't know if you guys remember. And in that AMA, he was forthright enough to admit his faults. And he talked about like his preference was also to go back into civil rehabilitation. And I don't know, he might have had something to do with the timing of this announcement. And as for people keeping money on their exchanges, I guess you guys are also talking about the South Korean
Yes.
BitThumb exchange hack. These kinds of attacks are lessons that the free market is teaching us. Don't leave your money in an exchange. If this was the 1850s, the message would be, don't put your savings in a bank that's printing its own money. And just like back then, there will be calls to regulate, but regulation only creates moral hazard. Like the formation of the FDIC, which allowed banks to make risky loans. Fortunately, I think in crypto, we are very likely in an unregulatable market. Suckers and 80%ers, like you call them, have to lose their money in order to learn their lessons, and they will learn, even if it is the hard way. And that's not a bad thing. I think that's a necessary thing. We've been protected way too long from our moral failings.
Excellent point there. Personal responsibility, people.
What lessons have been learned though? That's the issue is that these hacks are happening, but the bigger ones are getting reimbursed. If you look at Bitfinex, BTCE, all these CoinCheck, blah blah blah, like they're all getting reimbursed. So to the people not in the know better, they're just gonna say, well, custodial solutions be damned. I'm just gonna leave it on on the exchange, because at the end of the day, I'm going to get it back, you know?
I think people should really think hard and think, you know what, an exchange in Eastern Europe does not equal a bank. It does not equal a bank. And just because a couple of them got bailed out here, maybe no one would want to be involved in this Mt. Gox situation, and nobody would want to be involved in the Bitfinex, the coin. Remember when they got they bailed them, they made a Bitfinex coin or something like that. I don't know. Again, I'm not. People, please control your own private key. Take some personal responsibility. Corey, we're talking some libertarian type of stuff here. Any thoughts on?
Well, let me just comment on leaving your crypto on exchanges. Like,
yes,
I do leave crypto on exchanges all the time, but I know full well what I'm getting myself into, right? So when you deal with trading altcoins or flipping altcoins for more Bitcoin or any of that realm whatsoever, there are certain things that come along with it that you assume that risk, you know? So, but the point I think is, if I get wiped out tomorrow because an exchange goes out, that's on me, and I know it's coming, right? So basically, I see the whole altcoin and flipping altcoin market and all this stuff is anything other than buying and holding Bitcoin is really just Las Vegas from your living room. And you just assume those risks, right? So just don't go crying to anybody when your money gets wiped out. That's really, I think, the fundamental point.
Well, we have great, the thing, and I like that attitude. You are taking complete personal responsibility over, you realize exactly what you're doing. There's so many people out there that do not realize what cryptocurrency is, that, it's be your own bank. People are indeed addicted so much to the bank model where someone else holds their money that they kind of transfer it to, like, I'm going to diversify into all these altcoins. I'll sell them eventually. I don't know how to control every one of them. So I just keep it on this exchange, and this exchange is just as good as Bank of America. I mean, that's where, and that's not the way to think. Because Thomas asked me earlier today, when do you think the next hack is going to be? And he said, 6 months, 6 years. And I said 6 hours. That's what people have to think. The next hack is going to happen in 6 minutes. People have to, you got to be that suspicious. It is like gambling. All right, Tim, you disappeared for a while. Your thoughts on the subject?
Yeah, I completely agree about the whole problem, and a lot of it is because of how much it jumped. Like the whole thing that just grabbed the media spotlight in the past year of how much it just shot up. It brought in a lot of people, and they not that there weren't ones before, but where Bitcoin is not even just a way to make money, or cryptocurrency aren't just a way, you can just trade it and you can make all this money, but also they do kind of like the idea of, this is kind of separate from, you get a lot of people who are kind of into the whole, the Federal Reserve's kind of messed up, that's not the best way to have money, blah blah blah, this is a free money, we kind of run it as people, but then wait, I can lose the money and there's no way for me to get it back. I can just send it's that's kind of built in. You can't have this perfect, great thing that just takes money away from where money has been held for the past, a couple centuries since we started central banking and everything like this. You can't have the freedom. The whole reason why people did that was because they convinced enough people to be you don't want to have to risk doing this. You don't want to have to worry about this going up and down and losing. Just let us run it for you. And if we want to get out of that, we have to go, no, I'm going to pay attention enough in my life to actually do something and to actually just be safe for myself. And that's called being paranoid, but that's not bad. Why are you worried about? Why would you want to be worried about? Well, it's because I'd rather that than someone else just completely running my money system for me.
Excellent point. Excellent point. I'm going to say this with this recent hack, with it, even though it's not the fault of Bitcoin, it is the own people's fault for, again, the one that's just happened in Korea. What is this? BitThumb. I was in Korea, and the Koreans love gambling, and they do not know how to control their private key. If this hack is as bad as they say it is, a lot of Korean people lost a lot of money on this. I hope they learn, because Koreans, more so then Americans are prone to keep their money on these exchanges. That is what I was told when I was there. Here, at least, we know about the Trezor and the storage devices and everything. And hey, I hope more people watching this, seriously, it's no joke. Check it out. You do not want to be left out in the cold when the next one of these things happens. And there is going to be a next one. And it will happen to big names too. I mean, it happened. People don't remember that it happened in 2016 to Bitfinex. Anyway, pound that like button, everyone, if you like that we have 4 guests on the show today. Okay, so let us move on and go to the fact that because we do have these FUD-related stories out there, that even though 1 Bitcoin equals 1 Bitcoin, we see the mood of the 80%ers that kind of set the mood in the crypto universe. It's kind of down still, and that has been perhaps, playing a role in the USD price. Josh, thoughts?
Yeah, so trends have been bearish for like 2 weeks-ish. You can argue we've been bearish since 20K, but I'm not perfect like that. So the trend indicators that I use have all pointed to down for a little while now. And we've yet to see a pickup in volume, and that's really what we need. We need a washout, capitulation, giant wick, emotional, weak hands. Like, that's what the chart needs till I'm a little bit more bullish than I am now. Everything looks oversold. Everything is building bullish divergences, meaning we go lower on less momentum, but that can last forever. Like, until we see volume pickup with doing something, it's just going to be a slow bleed. This doesn't feel like a slow bleed. Maybe to some people are down like 10-20% every once in a while, every week now. But the volume hasn't gone up. If you go to the weekly chart, the volume has gone down ever since the high on the volume, either December or January, one of those two. So it's really not come back. Something that's interesting is, so Q2 ends on Friday or Saturday. So we may see some sort of Q2, Q3 rollover. I don't know. Like, I don't even know what's left at this point. But the downside targets are low. They're below 5K. I mean, that's where everything's are pointing to me anyway.
Well, I don't worry about the price because these are all short-term issues. Long-term, this thing is going to change the darn world, of course. But we do have to mention the price. And what I wonder is that it seems like there are individuals out there that just seize upon FUD news, whether it be Tether or when the mainstream jumps on it, they also jump on it because they will, for whatever financial reasons. There are some people that benefit when Bitcoin goes down. You can set it up a certain way. Corey, what do you think about all this? The price, or do people? Is there a sad attitude? Is there a toxic attitude in the crypto community right now?
I wouldn't say that. But one thing I would like to point out is that if you look at the projections based on the uptrend on the logarithmic chart, Bitcoin can go back down to a $10 billion market cap and still not violate the upward trajectory of the projections. So really, that's like a $1,300 or $1,400 Bitcoin. That's scary, but it can still do that. I'm not concerned long term. If you look at if you concern yourself more with the long term patterns, you'll see that Bitcoin is really a part of societal and human evolution, and that it's going to run over everything else like a steamroller. So Bitcoin's failure and like price to me, the failure is irrelevant, and the price is not going to go down much further below $5,000 in my opinion, but it could go down to 1,300, 1,400 if you look at the charts.
These magical charts. I don't look at the charts. I look at this freaking strong hand, baby, because I'm going down with this ship. I don't care how far it goes down, and I don't think it'll go down that far. But again, I'm thinking about the year 2020. I mean, the rest of it is all just I'm watching people's psychological reactions. I think so much of this is psychological. But at the same time, Corey did mention altcoins before, and I want to hear what Anthony. What do you have an opinion on the altcoins? Are they being punished more? In the end of the day, is there going to be some major altcoin destruction, or what do you see in terms of price?
Well, first on Bitcoin, I have to say, the price, to be perfectly fair, has been devastatingly depressing in the last 6 months. And the way I see it, the altcoins are scam coins, every single one of them. And this market has to be washed clean. It has to be, all these altcoins have to be cleansed. They have to be removed. And that's probably what this price action is showing us. I do not trust any reemergence of the price of Bitcoin until I see a crush of all the other altcoins. That's
Uber Bitcoin maximalist. I like this.
I'd go even further and say like these ICOs are just beyond the pale as far as scams are concerned. I mean, what I'd really like to see is a giant washout of those via Ethereum dropping to like $200 or less. All these other ICOs that are holding Ethereum capitulating, like that's what I'd really like to see. But I don't think that's going to happen.
Right.
How about you, Tim? What's your thought on that? ICOs and altcoins in the future?
Well, I mean, I'll start this off saying I shouldn't be allowed to have an opinion on this, but that's not how the world works. As far as like my understanding, most of these things, I mostly just try to listen to other smarter people about it. It does seem like, yeah, if we have a price drop like this and it does wash things out, then good. Like if they're gone, then they were supposed to go. Like as far as the market's going, if they stick around somehow, that could be two things. That could be the market saying they're good, or that could be just people going, well, no, I mean, I just like this because it's good. And it's not really based on anything good, because there is always human kind of interactions with things. Like it doesn't have to be logical. But yeah, I think that's as far as not even just altcoins or ICOs, like I think Anthony said it before. It's just, or no, Josh, I think, about just getting guys out of, like, if you're into this, if you're worried about so much about kind of the attitude of everybody else in the space, then I don't even know why I'm saying the space, because it's not like I interact with it that much. That's probably part of it. If you are worried about the general like community morale, then you're probably focusing on the wrong thing. You probably are focused. Like, I understand, like it was way nicer to tell people, oh, I talk about Bitcoin, oh, and it's 20 grand right now. And but now people, oh, how much did that drop? Oh, I'm sure you're glad you kept it. Now I'm like, I don't really care. It was never something where I'm like, yeah, I'm going to make a bunch of money and then sell it all into cash anyway. If nothing else, just because I don't want to have to pay the taxes on it. But yeah, it's like I'm just keeping stuff in Bitcoin. A Bitcoin, like you said last night, a Bitcoin is still a Bitcoin. I'm not worried about it just because of the price. So I'll give that point to you again. I'm on your show. I have to. But yeah, that's really my thought.
Well, I will say you say about logic. There is no logic in any of this in altcoins. There is no logic. The ICOs, I know some people want the world cleansed of them. They're not going anywhere, because so many of the people who have joined the space only know of cryptocurrency because of ICO. That's what they think cryptocurrency is. It's ICOs. It's buying this and hoping it goes up and flipping it to the greater full as quick as possible. And that's their deal. In terms of Anthony said it's been a little depressing or something. For me, it's not. To me, it's not depressing at all, because again, for me, it's just part of the cycle of cryptocurrency life. We saw this in 2015. It went down to 200, and all these people were saying that Bitcoin was dead, and people were swearing it off. We're not there. I don't think we'll ever get to that extreme again. The feelings that people were expressing toward Bitcoin during that down market. I think people should really try, talk to some dudes that have been around since then, and watch some of the old videos people made back then and see the opportunity that is involved in a down market. Someone's just about to say something. Sorry, I heard a tweet out of someone. Okay, Corey,
giggled or something.
Corey, how about you and altcoins? You do know about altcoins.
This is a very complicated subject, and my real answer would probably take about 6 hours to deliver in full. Here's a reality. Like, Bitcoin is the only secure money system that we need, right? So I'm technically a maximalist. Now let's compartmentalize that idea for a second. When I bought my first Bitcoins, around like the $500 range, I realized as a broke guy who wanted more Bitcoins, there was only so many ways for me to get them, right? So pretty much within a couple of days of me buying my first Bitcoins, I started flipping altcoins to make more Bitcoin, right? So that opens up a whole new world of what are altcoins? Are they used speculatively to make more Bitcoin? Are they technological advancements that will change the world? What exactly are these things? What purpose do they serve? Are they trying to be the next Bitcoin? Do they serve as a gateway to a service that maybe is a great service and function like a utility token? There's so many different aspects to them that I think the biggest problem is that they are not clearly defined in their function. And the conclusions I come to are many, right? And I can define probably a dozen different types of altcoins and what they do. But really, from what I see, Bitcoin will serve as an infrastructure for additional tokens and whatnot, not necessarily built on top of, but as the gateway to all crypto, kind of like it is today. But I believe that you'll see a lot of utility tokens that are pretty much the gateways to services, kind of like I have this thing, and I keep talking about like Starbucks mocha latte coin, right? So if Starbucks had their own token that all it did was get you 50% off in the store, it would drive demand for the token just so people could get a discount, and it would form its own little Starbucks economy, right? I think you're going to see stuff like that pop up all over the place. Now, I am trying not to pass judgment on whether that's good or bad. I see it coming as inevitable, and I haven't really formed an overall opinion on if that's functional or if it's just going to appear because people want it, right? So, but there are so many aspects that right now for me, altcoins are Las Vegas, and I flip them to make more Bitcoin. That's like pretty much how I approach them at the end of the day. However, I do really appreciate Monero. A first layer of privacy, I think, is absolutely important. And I think it is the only other viable proof of work coin out there. But then from a financial perspective, you know, I look at things like Neo. Technologically, it could be a complete piece of garbage. But if the Chinese government flips a switch and says Neo is going to be used for this, you have 1 billion Chinese people using it. It's going to go to 10,000 a coin, and you just got rich on a piece of junk, right? So there's multiple ways that you can look at it. And the financial end, the flipping for more Bitcoin, is definitely nothing to ignore.
No, it's something that many people, they think that's what cryptocurrency is all about. I just can't hold on to my Bitcoin. I got to do something with it. I'll get into these altcoins. They'll get me more Bitcoin. You know, I do not recommend that, people. And also, you did mention Neo and that magical word, China. Because when anything deals with China in crypto, you know it must be going up. Or at least that's what the 80%ers told me. All right, again, there are other ways to get cryptocurrency, though, people. If you're a content creator, go over to Steam it. I'm BitcoinMeister on there. You can throw your content on there and you earn some steam, turn it into Bitcoin. That's what I do. You can also just charge for your business, whatever you do, whatever services you provide, charge in Bitcoin. Do some consulting, you know. There's other ways out there to definitely get your Bitcoin. And again, people, be patient. Be patient. Don't be impulsive. Do not, you know, jump into your friend's investment scheme. And the best thing you can do is hold your Bitcoin. That is a reminder out there. Well, Anthony, any thoughts on what was just said? Because I do have a question for you that pertains to what we've been talking about.
Sure. So, you know, what was the purpose of Bitcoin? I mean, even from the original white paper, the way I understand it, the original purpose was the disintermediation of central banks, right? And what other altcoin or cryptocurrency offers that? It's not. None of these other things are currencies in that respect. I think every second that we spend in investing into all these altcoins, we are not spending fighting the biggest monster, fighting the system that is crushing our economy, which is the Federal Reserve and other central banks. So that's my take on that.
Well, I will say that is a big world picture of cryptocurrency and Bitcoin. That Bitcoin is the rock. It is the one that's threatening the establishment financial organizations that are out there, or they'll realize it eventually. Many haven't woken up to it, but again, so many people they don't want to be their own banks. They are so used to the old way, the central bank controlled way of financial mechanisms, that they still treat their Bitcoin as if it were something that you put into a bank. And you know what? That's their choice. There are always going to be people, I predict, that want other people to hold their Bitcoin for them, even though that's not why you should have gotten into this in the first place. That's just the way it is. That's just the way people are. Some people cannot take personal responsibility. So there is opportunity out there for people who want to either have a Bitcoin bank or convince banks that, you know what, there's something new on the horizon here. People are you could become a Bitcoin bank, Bank of America. So Anthony, with that segue there, tell us what your company is doing actually, because I find it fascinating.
Awesome, thanks. Yeah, so I had this idea just a few weeks ago, in fact. So pivoted my business from focusing on insurance to focusing on banking for this reason. And the reason for this is, I mean, we talked earlier about personal responsibility and how people should be, people who are losing their money on these exchanges, they should be held responsible. And I agree with that, but I think there's two classes of users, right? And Giacomo Zucco, I think he had a talk last year. I talked about exactly this thing: Type 1 and Type 2. The Type 1 users, they're us, you know. We want financial sovereignty, we want permissionless finance, all the features that Bitcoin offers, censorship resistance. But most people today, and if you want a global adoption, they don't care about that. Those are not the features that they need or want. Institutional and retail investors, they're not interested in these features. What they care about right now are two things: the speculative aspect of Bitcoin, and the second thing is its non-correlation with traditional asset classes. So for this reason, we believe that banks are perfectly suited and placed to intermediate Bitcoin deposits, like hold Bitcoin custodial deposits on behalf of customers. And if you look at Coinbase, they're already doing this. So most people who are holding their money on Coinbase is acting like a bank. They're charging a fee for it. So it's the same thing, but imagine being able to. I tried to have this discussion at some of the meetups, Bitcoin meetups that we've had in Toronto, and we ask people, if you had the choice between owning your own wallet, learning about the technical aspects of Bitcoin, or just calling a bank and asking them to buy some Bitcoin for you, what would you choose? And a lot of people chose the latter. So that's the use case that I'm working with right now.
It's quite a use case, and I think it's mind-blowing to some people, but not to me. I mean, again, I think we've all learned, so many people keep it on exchanges. They don't want the responsibility. And right now, it's not the easiest user interface in the world to learn how to store your Bitcoin. Some people don't want to learn. Josh, your comments on third-party storage and people's addiction to the old ways.
Sure, yeah, two things. So the first one is decentralized exchanges are coming eventually. And ideally what that means is you're your own custodian still, and you're just putting your funds in escrow of some type to use them on the exchange. So you're seeing this with ZeroX, ZRX, and a bunch of other stuff. So that's coming. I think DEXs are a bit like utopia, but they're going to increase in demand as we keep getting hacks and people actually lose money and blah, blah, blah. So the more people are educated on all of that stuff, the better. So that's coming. And the second thing that's coming is basically institutional custodial solutions, like we're seeing at Coinbase, like you're seeing at BitGo, which I'm not a fan of, but you need custodial solutions for the big players. Otherwise, they're just not going to come to the table. It's the same reason you need DEXs with KYC AML, as much as that's like the antithesis of crypto. Until you see that, the big players aren't just going to come to the table. So yeah, like yes, me, you, and everyone here wants like banks to handle crypto, or people with banks to handle crypto. Whatever it is. I think a lot of us are here for the technology, right? And then there are other people who need that. I'm going to use crutch as the word, but it's not necessarily a crutch. It's just they'll never understand the importance, or they'll never understand the complexity, like whatever it is. So yeah, we need custodial solutions like that. We need ETFs. We need index funds. We need this other stuff Coinbase is doing with like basket funds, indices, like I said, that sort of thing. So it's bullish on the space. Like I don't think it's it's not like super necessary for crypto to be crypto, but it's necessary, I think, for crypto to be brought like sort of mainstream more than it already is.
Good.
Just to jump in here a bit, if you're a mechanic and you worked for 10 years being a mechanic, trying to learn how to fix cars, and you work 12 hours a day doing that, you come home, you want to crack open a beer and watch TV. You don't care about anything else. You really don't want to spend a lot more resources on learning about banking and finance and economics and cryptography. So there's a large chunk of the population that is that way. And it's just sympathy for them. It's sympathy for them, and getting them on board is going to need we're going to need the traditional banking system for that. So that's what I'm hoping to accomplish.
Excellent. Tim, would you let a bank hold your Bitcoin for you?
I don't. This is my point about this, is like where it's, and this was probably always the time. I don't think that people have gotten necessarily like worse about just trusting banks or stuff like that. I just think like we haven't learned anything more from what they did in the past. It's just most people nowadays aren't paranoid about this. I'll just take it back to that. It's not that I wouldn't put my money with a bank. It's like I've had money on Coinbase. It's not like I freak out about it, but I'm paranoid enough about it. And I kind of just like, I have no issue really. I haven't sent Bitcoin to the wrong person. I haven't really had it hacked from me, which is not an invitation to whoever's listening. Please don't do that now. But yeah, I don't need that thing. If we do want, like, I'm not even necessarily of the opinion that we need, I would love to see mainstream adoption, but as far as that's kind of secondary to me to just having a decentralized currency. It's like what you said, a lot of people just don't want that. So if you're going to do that with Bitcoin, it doesn't stop me from just being able to hold my Bitcoin. So I'm all, yeah, go sure ahead, make that. But I just don't care that much about it. I probably wouldn't send my Bitcoin. I'm sorry. You're not going to get my business. Probably don't take that as an offense. I'm dumb enough to think that I can hold it myself, which is probably a bad idea. Yeah, that's all.
I'll say this. It is, you're that much more elite with all of these people, rushing to third parties to hold their Bitcoin. If you can control your own private key, think of it that way. You're that much more special and elite than everyone else, that you've really got it. You don't have to worry at all if you trust yourself. Corey, now there are a lot of smart people out there that advise, control your own private key. And we're going to talk about them in a second. This is actually a segue into a question I'm going to ask you. But before we get into that, do you have thoughts about banks? And is it necessary to have very traditional third-party storage entities to onboard a lot more people and a lot more bigger institutions and richer people?
Well, I'd like to be able to tell you that everyone will be able to hold their own keys and everything will just be perfect. But unfortunately, that's not the reality we're going to face. Much like Anthony was saying, people get off working all day. They're not going to sit at home and then spend another 6 or 8 hours on crypto. When I got into crypto, it was very quickly that it consumed everything, and I didn't have time for anything else. I used to run a cannabis media company full-time, very successful, and I walked away from it to work for free. In crypto, most people can't do that. So we are absolutely going to need, well, I don't want to say banks, but places like Coinbase that are they're consumer friendly, right? And now, of course, I have the same problems with Coinbase and BitPay that everyone else has. But when you look at those problems from a consumer level, most consumers, I don't think would even know what we're talking about, much less care. So I think as far as they are concerned and the mainstream populations, when it comes to them investing in Bitcoin, unfortunately, I hate to admit that places like Coinbase are really, or Cash or Square Cash, I think places like that are a necessary evil.
They're going to flourish. And Anthony, you've got some good ideas here to be working with these banks and get them up to speed and so they can create their own storage companies, because people are going to want to store with these so-called trusted third entities when they should just trust themselves. But anyway, going back to Corey. So speaking about trusted, we've got a lot of, well, not a lot, but there are some elite trusted YouTubers out there that I'm so proud to be associated with, the guys at the World Crypto Network. And you, as you have said, you have worked behind the scenes, getting it all podcasted up and everything. And you've got your Twitter feed, your Bitcoin Podcast Twitter feed, which everyone needs to follow. Again, linked to below. But I want Corey to tell everyone what is going on. What is going on with the podcast? Because a lot of people here obviously know, maybe some people are listening to this right now, which is awesome, but a lot of people are watching this right now. They don't know about the podcast. So Corey, go ahead and tell us all about it.
All right. Well, I'm going to take a minute and tell a story.
Okay.
So I got involved with World Crypto Network a little more than a year ago, maybe a year and 3-4 months. And I had a background in independent media and podcasting. I spent 3 years with another independent media organization. And I left them because I knew I wanted to work in the Bitcoin space. And so it took me a couple months to kind of build a relationship with Vortex and Thomas. And eventually they allowed me to take over their SoundCloud account, right? Which really wasn't well maintained at all. You know, every episode wasn't getting up there and there was really not much effort being put into it. And I think in 2 years they had like 200,000 streams. So I took over that and I took over the Twitter, and I think I brought us up to like 2.5 million streams in the past like 9 or 10 months, something like that. So actually we're about to break 3 million streams combined with our new Acast numbers. But eventually I really tried to bring in all these different contributors and build World Crypto Network out to be like one network to rule them all. But there's a lot of independent personalities in Bitcoin, and not everybody's always on the same page, right? So I basically had to find a kind of neutral, a neutral third party that these guys could trust, right? So contradictory, but still I needed to have a neutral kind of company so I could continue to manage everyone's podcasts, even if everyone didn't want to do the same things, right? And it kind of gave us the opportunity to spread out and pick up more contributors, even contributors who are not necessarily in Bitcoin or crypto. So currently managing about 6 streams. Next week, I'm launching the Bitcoin Standard podcast. It's Saif Amus's original podcast. We'll be doing some new original content and be mostly putting out his presentations that he does while he's on the road currently. So things are growing. I have a bunch more people I'm talking to about bringing on board as far as business development and also new contributors. So in the next couple of months, I'm moving out to Las Vegas, where I'm going to hook up with Vortex and Thomas and Trace, and I have connections out in LA. And we're basically trying to build the biggest crypto media company on the planet. We're going to offer all kinds of services to contributors. And this is a thing I haven't really talked to you about yet, Adam. It's going to be contributor owned. A big chunk of the company is going to be distributed to the contributors over 3 years, which is, I think, probably one of the biggest things to make it more of a collective than anything else. So that's kind of where we're going.
Everyone out there, pound that freaking like button, because you just got all this awesome insider information. You don't know how much Corey and I have talked about this stuff for months, and a lot of the other guys that you see on screen have talked to Corey about this. You know, when we met up in Denver and everything, there's a lot of and I've alluded to behind the scenes stuff before, but you just heard some of it there. And I know some people love to hear that stuff. And so there's a lot of good stuff going on in crypto media. I'm so proud to be a part of this with Corey, with the World Crypto Network, with these decent dudes that are out there, really decent, good guys, Andy Hoffman, everybody. And again, you mentioned, what's his name? Saeed, how do you say his name?
Saifedean Ammous.
I cannot even pronounce it. He will be speaking. He is on tour right now, which is true. And he will be speaking at the BitcoinRodeo.com in Calgary on July 9th and 10th. I will also be there speaking. So will Vortex. BitcoinRodeo.com. Check it out. Links below. I will also be speaking in Philadelphia on the 18th. There's a discount code for that below. So again, I'm plugging everything that's linked to below right now. That's my little transition. Pound that like button, of course. Now, since we're talking, I love these inside stories. I love people who are in motion. Like all 4 of these guys are in motion. Josh, do you have an in motion story? Something that you're doing, something you want to tell, you want to plug your channel, your Twitter, anything?
Sure, yeah. I mean, one thing I've noticed definitely since January is the number of podcasts that have popped up, which I think is super bullish long term because this is information, regardless of the quality, that people are going to see in the coming months, as things get fleshed out. There are so many podcasts, whether you like them all or hate them all. There are so many now, and that's huge for.
To give you an idea, I'm uploading right now 15 to 20 shows 7 days a week.
Yeah,
every single day.
Now again, there are a lot of the amount of YouTube shows had definitely went through the freaking roof when the price was going on. Now I don't know how many people can stick with it or not, but again, I want to point out that Corey selects the best of the best. Okay, he's not picking the BitConnect dudes. Okay, there's no BitConnect guys associated with Corey. Okay, so or with I would not be part of an organization or a pseudo or whatever, an affiliation, but that has to do with such things. But again,
I just want to comment real quick, Adam. Yeah. I work with Peter at Decentralized TV and the Crypto Lark, and those guys are absolutely great. And they talk about altcoins all the time. But when you listen to what they say, they end up funneling you right to Bitcoin. So they're amazing contributors.
Again, they're not funneling. There were people, and they'll be back again, that were funneling people to BitConnect type things, okay, pyramid schemes. Those, in fact, were some of the most popular YouTube channels out there. Are the get-rich-quick crypto channels? Definitely. That's how you get the hits. You talk about well, you just got to join this pyramid scheme, this affiliate marketing thing. So it is good that there are. I encourage everyone to start their own channel. Try to monetize it any way you can. Partner with people. You do the Steam It thing too. So Josh didn't mean to interrupt you. Josh has got his channel out there, and people love to hear the numerical predictors and stuff. They love to see those charts. I'm not a big fan of the charts or anything like that. But hey, people, they want to be told, like, oh, in X, Y amount of days, it's going to be X, Y amount. That's 80% nature. I don't know, human nature. Who knows? All right, Josh, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, that's okay. No, yeah, that's good. I feel like the podcasts are more real than most of these YouTube channels in general, but I'm sure there's evidence against that as well.
Yeah, there are some hardcore, pure podcast guys out there. There are some hardcore dudes out there, and they just keep it real. They've been plugging it away at it. Tim, you are a dude who's been plugging away over there. You, me, and BTC.com, right?
Yes. Yeah, no, Daniel would the guy who does most of the stuff for that would hate me if I didn't plug that, at least on this show. I'm gonna mess up the live thing or whatever it is. But yeah, just go to youmeandbtc.com. It's pretty much like a hangout. We do try to, we'll occasionally talk about altcoins, but it all kind of does center around Bitcoin stuff. We'll throw in libertarian stuff in there too. We just kind of it's not we don't really have segments. It's mostly just what this has been, where we sometimes have guests, but it's normally three guys kind of talking about stuff and seeing where that goes. But yeah, I'm not happy about all the rest of the podcast, because then it makes me have to be at least somewhat entertaining, which I wish the bar was a lot lower. And then I also do a separate podcast which has nothing to do with Bitcoin, but you can find that at the same website, because we're trying to do extra shows. If you have a lot of time, so that's the thing with me. I don't really care as much about podcast quality, because I have a job where I'm outside for about 8 hours a day, so I'm just kind of always listening to podcasts. So I just need extra stuff. If you're in that kind of situation, get us. We have about 4 different shows now. No, 3. I lied there a little bit, but check us out. Another guy who I do the podcast with also has another show where he does actually interview people and talks about Bitcoin. My show is mostly just me ranting for about a half hour, but he actually gives you some facts and opinions on stuff. So check him out. Check out Zach. He's in the chat here bothering me the whole time, but he's being supportive in his way.
You are in motion. I love all 4 of these dudes are definitely in motion. You are out in the sun 8 hours a day. You're very fair skinned though.
It doesn't go well for me. This is also why people constantly think I'm either embarrassed or angry, is because I'm kind of just red all the time. But that happens when it's summer and winter. I look basically like a fish belly. That's how the rest of me looks. And then I'm just why do you look like a lobster, dude? You just came in from, the wind hits me. yeah, no, I probably should live in Alaska or something like that for me to not have issues with my skin. But yeah, if you have extra time, check us out. You can listen to the sunburn guy talk about things.
SPF 50. Send some
Yeah.
SPF 50.
Lots of that. I need Bitcoin cents so I can buy more SPF 50.
All right. Let's go over everybody. So we've talked about a lot of things today. I'm going to give everybody a chance to say some conclusionary remarks, or if I had interrupted them and they didn't get to say something, if they want to just add anything, this is your time. So we'll start with our Canadian, Anthony.
All right. I just want to, first of all, congratulate Corey and Adam. I really love the World Crypto Network. I consume as much of it as possible. I can barely keep up, and I look forward to listening to and watching more of your shows. In terms of getting in touch with me, I would if anybody has any contacts, anybody listening or watching has any contacts in banks, please get in touch with me. We're actively pursuing banks right now in North America. So if you know anybody, just reach out to me. You can. My website is hevel.ca, hevel.ca, and all the contact information is on there.
And again, his Twitter is linked to below. And your partner was actually on this on my show talking about. Are you still doing the insurance thing too?
That's right. That's true. Yeah, we are still pursuing the insurance. So whenever we get the chance, we speak to insurance companies on building Bitcoin-denominated insurance contracts. It's apparently way too early for that, and that's why we pivoted to banking, which is something more needed right now. But insurance, if we get demand for it, we're gonna pursue that.
You are a true entrepreneur, pivoting around like that. That's awesome. Thanks for being on today. You're a great guest. Well, we just talked to Tim, but I'm gonna Tim. Is there anything else you got to say here? Any final thoughts?
Just a parting shot. Just don't be. If you do have an issue with Bitcoin, it's great. Where if you have an issue holding it, great. Go to a bank, but try to in everything. Try to be a little bit more conscious. And I've used that as way too many times on our show as far as like advice or stuff. But try to be conscious in your day-to-day stuff, because we do tend to get in a rut. We tend to go, oh, well, I mean, this is a little bit easier, and I've kind of just always been doing this, so let's just keep doing that. But try to pay attention to certain things in your life. I don't know what that means, but I guess find what you want to make the most important in your life and try to actively be conscious of what you're doing and how you're getting to that point.
I know what it is. It's meaning. Find meaning in your life.
Exactly. Find your God.
Find meaning. No, that's Jordan Peterson type of comment right there. All right, Josh. Josh, you're in DC, right?
I am in DC.
Did you riot when the Capitals won? Or,
No, I avoided that.
I had to hear a lot of people crying here in Pittsburgh about that. They're like, this is ridiculous. Alex is never going to win ever.
Yeah, it is weird that the Capitals Pittsburgh always gets in the way of the Capitals. Apparently. Yeah. Again, I don't like hockey at all. Sorry, Anthony, I don't like hockey. I know you're in Toronto. But I saw I'm from Baltimore. I don't care about the Capitals at all. But that was weird that they actually won the Stanley Cup and they were playing some team in Las Vegas of all places. Anyway, so Josh didn't riot, but Josh, do you have any? And by the way, if the Maple Leafs win ever, they will riot in Toronto, correct? I mean, there will be civil unrest.
I would, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, no, Anthony, that's a serious question. Will there be if the Toronto Maple Leafs finally win the Stanley Cup? Will there be a riot in Toronto? Will there be?
I'm gonna disappoint anyone. I know nothing about sports.
There you go, baby.
No comment.
And that's good. Don't let it be a distraction, people. I talk about how don't let the NFL be a distraction, and I'm talking about NHL, and I don't even know anything about it either. All right, where were we? Yeah, Josh's conclusionary thoughts.
Yeah, so there's a bunch of stuff happening in the next couple months with all these projects I'm involved in. So look up Experty. Their app is coming out soon, I think in a couple weeks. Altcoin.io is going to have a big announcement. They're a DEX that's developing. Brave New Coin, who I write for, they have some major stuff coming next couple weeks and months. And check me out on YouTube, Twitter, and check me out in the GAM room. That's a private group for traders and ICO people if you're interested.
Awesome, Josh. Thank you for being on. Thanks, Tim. Also, okay.
No,
Corey's going to wrap this baby up. What was left out of the show? Anything you want to say? Conclusionary remarks? The floor is yours, my friend.
This price issue is short term. Do not panic. Bitcoin's not going anywhere. It's personally, I have some fiat for the first time in years, and so I kind of want a $1,300 Bitcoin, but I know that's really not good for the ecosystem. So Bitcoin, there's a concept called anti-fragility, and it applies not only to the technical and financial, but philosophical aspects. So Bitcoin's not going anywhere.
All right, dude. I like ending it on a positive note, people. 1 Bitcoin equals 1 Bitcoin. Bitcoin is the next Bitcoin. Okay, that's my 4th show in 24 hours. That's it. I'll be back tomorrow for because I do a new show every single day, and I'll be on other people's shows too, like I've been. I'm happy to do it. I love it. I love spreading the positive vibe out there, and you can hear it on the podcast too. Corey's doing a great job. I'll be back tomorrow for the Beyond Bitcoin show. I'll talk about stuff beyond cryptocurrency and Bitcoin. You know, how to run, what's going on here on San Juan, Puerto Rico. You know, the gentrification that I don't see because there doesn't seem to be any. And again, we do this show, This Week in Bitcoin, every single Friday. So tune in every single Friday at the very least. But you should tune in 7 days a week because, baby, this is original type of stuff. You'll get this nowhere else. Pound that like button. I'm Adam Meister, the BitcoinMeister, Disrupt Meister. Thank you, all of my guests. Have a great weekend, everyone. See you later. Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys.
Bye, guys.